picture this. You're in the middle of a disagreement with your partner about something pretty ordinary. Plans that got changed, something that was forgotten, and then out of nowhere, it suddenly becomes about everything. 3 months ago, last year, that thing he said at that dinner date. Sound familiar? This is one of the most common patterns I see in couples therapy. I'm here to help you understand why it happens, what does it cost your relationship, and what can you do differently next time it comes up. Let's dive in. I'm a couples therapist, and the number one reason couples come to me is about what they describe as a communication problem. But the thing that actually hides behind that phrase is something else. And more often than not, it is this: bringing previous arguments into your current argument. It happens so frequently, not just between partners, but in all kinds of close relationships. And because it is so frequent, understanding this one pattern can generally change the quality of your relationship. So what does it look like in real life when we bring old arguments into the new one? Here's a real example from the clients I worked with a while ago. So one partner made plans for both of them without checking in first. And the conversation started there about plans. But within seconds, it became something different. It became,
"Of course you didn't think about my time. You never think about me."
and that was what they brought to that session. Hear that word, never. You never think about me. That right there is the signal. Words like never, always, again, and still. These are the words that are telling us that we are no longer reacting to something that's happening right now. We are reacting to now plus every single time before. It's not, I'm upset because you didn't include me in making plans today. It is, I'm upset about today plus every other time I felt this way, all at once. And this is where it gets quietly dangerous for couples. Because if this goes unnoticed, it can go on for years. I've seen it. Every argument adds a new layer and the pile grows. And that pile turns into what in therapy we call a wall of resentment. So think about it as an actual wall between you two, where you glue different things that you resent each other over time. And the reason why is that a slow killer of every relationship is that it doesn't announce itself loudly. It is not a one-time circumstance like an affair or a big disappointment. It just slowly creates emotional distance between two people who still love each other. And that emotional distance, and not the arguments itself, is actually what brings couples to therapy. So why do we do this? It's not because we want to be unfair to our partner. Obviously, it is not a manipulation tactic. For most people, it happens automatically because our nervous system is naturally pattern seeking. When something happens today that feels similar to something painful that happened before, our brain files it under the same category, same emotion, same threat. And so we respond not just to today's event, but to the whole file. The deeper reason the old argument keeps coming back is the wound from it was never really healed inside the relationship. Not because either person is bad, but because what was needed, whether that was being truly heard, being reassured, being understood, was never really fully received. So the pain stays unprocessed. And the unprocessed pain looks for an exit every time something similar happens. That's why when this happens in couples therapy, I help partners pause to notice the repeated topic is not the problem. The repeated topic is a signal. It's pointing to something that still needs attention. Let's think about for a second what it feels like to be on the receiving end of this. So let's say you're in the middle of one conversation and you're being held accountable for 5 other ones. How do you think you would feel? Overwhelmed? Maybe defensive? Possibly blindsided? And honestly, do you feel invited to keep talking? Most probably not. Because here is what goes through someone's mind when an old argument resurfaces mid-argument.
Why are we talking about this again? It was ages ago. Even if there was a chance that I respond well right now, the same thing will probably come up again next month. So what's the point?
And the person bringing this up is not doing it to be difficult. They're doing it because the topic keeps returning, not because it's not being said, but because it's not being healed. I'm sure by now that both you and your partner figured out that nobody wins in that loop. Both people feel unseen, both people feel stuck, and neither knows how to step out of it. So what are your actual options when you notice yourself again in this pattern? The first step I like to teach couples is to ask themselves one simple question. Where are my feet? It sounds simple, silly in a way, but it works. Your feet are here in the living room. They are here now in this conversation. They are not somewhere 1 month ago or 3 months ago. They are here. And what is actually happening in this room right now? Because when something in the present moment activates something old in you, you have a choice between two paths. Path one, come in with a full force. You never listen. You always do this. Here we go again. High tension, defensive response. Nothing gets resolved. And resentment adds another layer. Path two, notice what's happening. I notice this feels familiar to me. It's bringing up something from before. Where are my feet? Here. Let me try to stay focused on what is happening right now. And separately, we can find a calm moment to talk about the pattern. Because yes, if something is genuinely repeating, it absolutely deserves its own conversation. But that conversation cannot happen productively when the tension is already high. Disagreements will happen in any relationship. That's not the problem. The question is, how and when do we address them? I want to share something with you that I use in my own marriage. I call it the 60-20-20 rule, and it is not a clinical framework. It's just something that works for me personally, and I've shared it with clients who found it useful too. So 60-20-20, 60% of the time, I raise the problem now. The thing that genuinely needs to be addressed right now, in the present moment. I name it as a here and now situation. And no adding words like never, always, again, still. 20% of the time, if there is an issue, I let it go. Some things I notice, and I consciously decide to release. And I never bring it up again. They stay behind the closed door. 20% of the time, I schedule it. When the thing I recognize is a part of a repeating pattern, I try not to raise them mid-argument. I'm not 100% successful in this, but I try, I really try. I flag it as a topic that deserves a separate, calm conversation. So how that looks like in a real example, because for some of you, this might be the most controversial part of the 60-20-20 rule. So I might say to my husband, hey, this thing that just happened right now, it sounds familiar. I would like to talk about it in a separate conversation. Did you notice that we are repeating this from time to time? Okay, so let's finish what we started first. I'll check my calendar and then we'll both see when we can schedule this conversation. And we can talk about it then. What do you think? And that separate conversation needs both of us to be called and not from an intense emotion. These percentages are not rigid. What matters is the principle. Not everything needs to be resolved right now, and not everything deserves the same energy at the same moment. Here is what I would like you to take away from this. The moment you can tell the difference between I'm reacting to what's happening now and I'm reacting to what this reminds me of, everything changes. That one distinction opens up an entirely different kind of conversation. One that's grounded, where both people feel actually safe enough to be honest. It's not easy, yes. It takes practice. And some patterns are deep enough that maybe they need more than a rule. They might need a real supported space to walk this through. If that's where you are, that's okay. That's exactly what couples therapy is for. If this resonated with you, the next video might be the one you'll want to watch. It's about the foundational conversation that every new couple needs if they want their relationship to become something lasting and not just a painful lesson. See you inside.